It began as an ordinary day, the airport passengers boarding, airline staff guiding, the steady hum of Nigeria's aviation routine filling the air. But within minutes, that normalcy shattered. Eyewitnesses describe voices rising, hands gesturing sharply, and then, in a shocking turn, an Ibom Air passenger allegedly became physically aggressive toward airline staff. Phones came out, recordings began, and before long, the altercation had exploded across social media feeds nationwide. The images were unsettling. An airline meant to symbolize Nigeria's growing aviation pride now caught in a swirl of public anger and embarrassment. And as the clip made its rounds, the question wasn't just what happened, but what does this say about us? This wasn't merely about one passenger losing composure or one airline facing a PR nightmare. It became a microcosm of deeper tensions, public frustration with service delivery, the fragility of professionalism under pressure, and how quickly civility collapses when accountability feels absent. And in a political climate where every scandal, even outside government, becomes a talking point for opposition figures, the incident morphed into something larger. Political commentators began linking it to Nigeria's culture of impunity, poor conflict resolution mechanisms, and the broader decline in public trust in institutions. The purpose of this report is not to sensationalize a viral brawl, but to dissect it to understand how an incident inside an airport terminal can connect to the country's political discourse, the shifting expectations of citizens, and even mirror divisions seen in global politics. By the end of this analysis, we'll not only revisit the facts of the case but also explore its ripple effects on public sentiment, corporate accountability, and how media narratives weaponize even non-political events to score political points. According to accounts from onlookers and partial official statements, the altercation began over what should have been a routine boarding process. Reports suggest the passenger became agitated over perceived mishandling of boarding priorities or baggage policies. Voices escalated, physical contact allegedly occurred, and security was called in. The footage circulating online, though only capturing fragments, was damning enough to prompt a flood of public reactions. This is not the first time an airline in Nigeria has faced such scrutiny. Over the past decade, there have been repeated incidents of heated exchanges between passengers and airline staff, often over delays, poor communication, or policy disputes. Historically, Nigeria's aviation sector has had to battle not only operational inefficiencies but also a perception problem. The belief among many Nigerians that customer service is secondary to rigid policy enforcement. When passengers feel unheard, confrontations become almost inevitable. The Ibom Air case is unique because the airline, backed by Akwa Ibom State, has built its reputation as a professional, modern carrier, a symbol of local government-driven success. For such a brand to face this kind of public relations crisis, the stakes are higher. The timing is politically sensitive as well. With Nigeria's political class already under scrutiny over governance quality, an altercation at a state-owned airline becomes fodder for those seeking to question whether leadership in politics or business can maintain standards under pressure. It's the same kind of reputational pressure that, in U.S. politics, surfaces when a public institution stumbles, allowing opponents to frame it as symptomatic of broader failure. Within hours, Nigerian media outlets pounced on the story, but the framing varied widely. Some reports zeroed in on the behavior of the passenger, portraying them as emblematic of an entitled class unwilling to follow rules. Others focused on the airline's handling of the dispute, questioning whether staff escalated the situation unnecessarily. On social media, the reactions split almost perfectly down the middle, a sign of how polarized public perception has become in the age of viral outrage. Politically aligned commentators were quick to draw broader conclusions. Opposition voices linked the incident to what they call Nigeria's service delivery crisis, tying it to governance failures. In a twist, even unrelated political debates, including internal rifts in the U.S. Democratic Party over institutional trust and authority, were pulled in as analogies. This wasn't accidental. In modern politics, narratives bleed across borders, with local events used to illustrate global points. From a policy perspective, the Ibom Air altercation has reignited calls for stricter passenger conduct rules, better staff conflict resolution training, and even the idea of passenger blacklists for violent behavior. However, critics warn that without addressing the root causes, poor communication, lack of transparency, and the cultural normalization of confrontation. Such measures will be nothing more than window dressing. The Nigerian public's reaction to the Ibom Air video reflects an ongoing frustration that cuts across sectors, the belief that professionalism is optional, accountability is selective, and fairness is negotiable. Many see the passengers' alleged behavior as unacceptable but also believe it was a symptom of a deeper breakdown in trust between service providers and consumers. That's a trust gap that political leaders also face in the same way internal Democratic Party conflicts in the U.S. reveal disillusionment among their own base. Historically, viral public altercations have served as catalysts for reform or at least for temporary outrage. In other countries, high-profile service sector confrontations have led to legislative hearings, corporate shakeups, and brand overhauls. In Nigeria, such moments often fade unless tied to a broader movement. Whether this Ibom Air incident becomes a turning point or another viral clip lost to the news cycle depends on whether the public, the press, and policymakers keep the pressure alive. This story isn't just about an angry passenger. It's about what happens when trust erodes, when frustration boils over, and when institutions fail to meet rising expectations. The call to action is clear. Nigeria's aviation sector and, by extension, its public institutions must treat incidents like these as warnings, not mere embarrassments. The path forward will require not only better rules but also a cultural shift toward empathy, transparency, and real accountability. Without that, we'll keep seeing the same story play out, only with different faces, different settings, and even higher stakes.